And typically, when I go to court or see the judge make a ruling, my thought is if he just knew my client, like I knew my client, maybe he would have a different outcome.
as to why this property would not be suitable for a hospital. So the administrator, Lillian Perez-Posadas from the Farm Memorial Hospital stated, quote, "As a leader, I have an obligation, I have a duty to make sure that the healthcare services, such as the hospital, is accessible and available to the people of Guam and the community of Guam, not just for a certain community like the medical community," unquote. In May 2023, the government issued a press release citing problems with Ipao Point, including that the property is too small, all of the senators have also been provided a copy of the Matrix report, which is Matrix's what we've paid millions of, at least $1 million for a plan for them to assess the site and to develop a preliminary plan. And it's not a design; it's a preliminary plan for a medical complex. In those documents, it was reported that all the properties considered for siting of a medical complex were either owned by the Guam Ancestral Land Commission or the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, and one was owned by the University of Guam Conservation Area. So of course we want to hear today regarding cleanup of the site and all those other impediments that were laid on the table. According to the GMH Medical Campus Master Plan prepared by Metrix, the 35-acre, they cite 35 acres, Ipao Point site was one of the 3 sites distinguished and identified as most viable by the Department of Land Management. Additionally, the drive time analysis shows Ipao has significant advantage to larger populations within 20-minute distances. Specifically, the difference is 21,955 people are more than any other site, or more than the Atacao site, are within 10 minutes. 13,352 more people are within 20 minutes of the Ipao site versus the Atacao site. There is no study detailing the benefit for southern residents by placing the hospital at Atacao versus placing it at Ipao. These are the only drive time studies that are available. And so these I can provide to anyone who wants to see them. But within the 20-minute categories, Ipao serves 66.7%, Atacao is 58.3%, and Eaglesfield is 56.5%. The analysis of this site, I'm quoting now from the plan. The SWOT, SWOT analysis of this site noted several strengths, EPOW site, such as proximity to aviation facilities, high population densities, and reasonable travel distances. Weaknesses include inadequate space to accommodate the replacement facility and ancillary services as required through the MAP investigations. Costly development constraints and already congested traffic in the area that would inevitably grow worse and threaten emergency vehicle access. This means that EPOW Point site fell short because the acreage was not large enough for a medical campus, according to the report. Matrix also noted that it was not responsible for identifying alternative sites for the new public hospital and medical campus, developing site selection criteria, providing the data for accessing site alternatives, and selecting the preferred site. These tasks were the responsibility of the Government of Guam agencies. This section summarizes the process that the Government of Guam completed to assist them in selecting the preferred site for the new public hospital and medical campus. That's from their report. That's simply to show that Matrix, it was not Matrix that had made determinations or did the analysis. With the exception of the drive time, they simply compiled predetermined information provided to them. One of the testimonies received in the prior oversight hearing was from Dr. Jonathan Siddell, MD, who was the president of the medical staff of the Guam Memorial Hospital at the time. The letter expressed, quote, strong support of building a new hospital on EPOW Point, unquote. The letter also stated the Medical Executive Committee already stated that they support building a new hospital and that it should be in Tamuning. The key reason is that many of the medical staff live within 10 minutes from the current hospital, and that is so they can respond to life-saving emergencies. The letter further noted that response time is critical for providers to attend to patients and, quote, without this access for providers, patients would be left with their lives at risk, unquote. We received testimony recently from the Guam Medical Association, but I believe they are here to testify today. Is that correct? Yes, all right. So I'm going to skip that. It does talk about EPOW Point and distance for medical staff. All right, according to Matrix's campus master plan, the medical campus plan requires the medical alone requires 21.3 acres, or 23 acres if you add on the 1 million square feet flex bedding. This is square feet that they need. They calculated it in square feet. So I tried to calculate it. If you take that square feet and you laid it out on a one-story building, how many acres you would need. And so their total square feet for a medical facility is about 1 million square feet. That equals to 23 acres if all on one story. That's my estimate. EPOW Point consists of, according to the Department of Land Management's testimony, 25 to 27 acres of usable space. The medical campus report cites 35 acres are available at EPOW Point. In comparison, the current GMH hospital, according to the Director of Department of Land Management and GMH, uses approximately 16 to 17 acres. For the entire medical complex, according to Matrix, they would need 1,608,000 square feet of building. And that's, if you just lay that out on one floor again, 37 acres on a single floor, not including the parking. This is just the buildings. And this does not include the assisted living. I also excluded that part. I'm just trying to show comparisons as to the size of these properties that we're talking about. So the medical campus plan cites a medical facility that would have 300 beds and flex for 300 additional beds. GMH currently has 161 acute care beds in its current facility, and of course bedding at the SNF facility as well, 40 beds. The old GMH hospital on EPAL Point years ago had 230 beds. I think we have a picture of that. I'm not sure if that's available. All right. We wanted to follow up today also on utilities. All right. There, as to EPAL Point, a GWA report states that because of unknown condition and location of the water and sewer pipes on site, it would be preferable to install new water and sewer infrastructure. So I did ask GWA for their testimony, and they did submit some testimony regarding capital improvement projects that may have a direct or indirect benefit to Guam Memorial Hospital, Oka Point. The Director of Land Management at the previous hearing testified that the EPAL Point property has 57 acres, with 25 to 27 acres being usable. Non-usable portions are due to severed easements, reserved lands for the reinterment of ancestral remains, the Naftan Manyanata, the Kutuan Chamorro Cultural Center, and a fault line. And that there are relatively new communications cables. GPA provides underground power and a redundant system to GMH. This is in contrast to the infrastructure summary for Eagles Field and the infrastructure summary for Attica, which says similar to Eagles Field, according to the matrix report, which is it would require widening to 6 lanes of travel, related improvements, traffic signals at 3 arterial road intersections. The estimated cost is $26 million. The timeline to complete improvements is estimated 2 to 3 years. That's from DPW. GPA proposes a power substation on the campus to provide sufficient power to the entire campus. Requires 1 acre for substation and supporting infrastructure. An approximate cost is $20 million plus. Improvement timeline 1 year for design, 2 years for construction. This again is for Eagles Field. And GWA for Eagles Field sites hospital and medical campus will require a water storage tank to create sufficient pressure for domestic and fire flow. Water pump will require half an acre, potential for a new GWA well to be drilled off campus. Wastewater will need significant upgrades. The estimated utility upgrades for those properties was about $100 million. Compared to the estimated utility upgrades for EPAL to be $20 million. All right. We were also told at the last hearing that there are rhino beetle and fire ant nesting sites preventing development, and that the site has been used as a staging area or a dump site for old tires, white goods, construction debris, wood waste, green waste, and that EPA suspects petroleum contamination in the area. The Department of Land Management Director stated also that according to the Department of Agriculture's biosecurity and entomological expert, it may take 1 year or 2 years to mitigate the environmental pests, and following that, according to EPA, it may take another succeeding year to remove and properly mitigate the debris and the contamination on the soil due to the operations of a construction company who got permission from the CLTC to use the site as a staging area. The company was supposed to provide fencing and clean the property. All of this, again, was testimony of the Department of Land Management. So I'd like to begin today to hear testimony. We had invited the Army Corps of Engineers, who is there a representative here? If you could please join us. Thank you for being here. If you could please, and maybe the Office of Homeland Security or FEMA. I mean, FEMA's not here, but Mr. Stevis, if you could join us. All right. So we'd like to hear from you. It's our understanding that this was used as a debris site prior to Typhoon Mawar, after Typhoon Mawar, and that the FEMA has contracted the Army Corps of Engineers for cleanup, and at least partial cleanup, and so we'd just like to hear a status on that if we could. Mr. Stevis, if you'd like to begin and give us just a background on it, and then I'd like to hear from the Army Corps, and they also have a presentation of slides. Thank you.
No worries. So the background was post-Mawar. We had a lot of debris, and determining what is eligible and ineligible, the decision was made to basically contract it out. Decision was made to contract it out, given the fact that we also received our cost share waiver at 90/10, and this is when the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers took over the temporary debris management sites, and then also started to do the passes across the villages. Estimated timeline that we received from FEMA on the completion of clearing, at least for the EPAL point, is somewhere around mid-November. But given some of the delays with weather, and also recently with Bolavin having to secure the site, they expect maybe a potential couple-week delay in that. So sometime between mid to end of November, possibly early December, would be the estimated cleanup of that. Now that's just for eligible debris. For all ineligible debris, it's going to be really within the government of Guam, collaboration between DPW, Guam Solid Waste Authority, Guam Environmental Protection Agency, to basically enact the plan to remove the ineligible waste. And I can tell you that this has really been an ongoing effort, because if you look at some of the places where they've already removed ineligible waste, within a couple of days you start to see people dumping all over again, to the point where we've actually had to have people do monitoring, consistent monitoring for these sites. Yeah, these illegal dump sites have just come up all over the place. But we're very fortunate for the USACE sites, because all of that's within the contract, such as the security and the monitoring of that, and also the management. And they have a very useful dashboard.
Sorry, you said USACE, and I'm just, if you could just spell that out.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
All right, thank you. And I'm sorry, can you just state your name and position again for the record?
Yeah, Charles Esteves, Administrator for the Office of Civil Defense. And then on the disaster side, the Territorial Coordinating Officer.
Sisus Masi. All right, and the representative from Army Corps, if you could state your name and position for the record, and please proceed. The microphone. Yeah.
Half a day and good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Torres. I am the mission manager for the debris mission related to Super Typhoon Mawar. Like Mr. Stevis was saying, we are at this point in several TDMS sites, and today we're looking at a PAL point. So we, as part of the debris management plan, we got different temporary debris management sites, that's TDMS. At EPAL, at September 20th, we had about 25,000 cubic yards of debris left, not including ineligible debris. At this point, we're well beyond that, and we've cleared the site. We have less than a third left. So as you guys are seeing on the site, this was when we received EPAL point. That was the entry. Material was not sorted or separated, so our contractors had to start separating material into what was eligible, ineligible, vegetative versus scrap metal, and C&D. If you can scroll to the next. As you can see, we started creating pathways among the debris. Here you're seeing white goods. And we have a one EPA vehicle in front over. You can skip to the next. And then as the time progressed and our contractors spent more time in the site, they started organizing the sites into the type of material and different waste streams. You will note on the right of the screen that you have white goods. When we say white goods, we refer to air conditioners, water dispensers, refrigerators. So you will see they have an X or a 0. So basically they established a system to determine which elements were dirty, meaning they still contained Freon and couldn't be recycled until that was also eliminated. Or if they already had an X over the 0, that means that they were ready to move on and recycle that global. Next. Again, at this point, we're looking at white goods, but to the right, you will start seeing piles of ineligible debris. In this pile specific, we have photovoltaic cells, we have some e-waste in the form of screens and monitors, computers. So we also had to separate that for GovWAM and WAM EPA to take care of in the future. If you scroll. So to the left, you will see one of the vegetation piles that we had on the site after it was separated and organized. Fortunately, at this site, we did not have any fire ant report, so this was all taken to Manita Farms. And then, just for reference, just another image or exhibit of what the pathways through the material looked, of what is plastics and other ineligible debris. If you can scroll next. So today, the site looks like this. As you can see, it's been cleared pretty much of all the debris. To the left of the screen, you will have a pile of ineligible debris in the form of ceramics, porcelains that were deemed non-eligible. And then to the left, you will see the only remaining pile of eligible material for our contract. Beyond that, there is a pile of ineligible material that GovWAM is taking care of. If you hit next. And for a graphic image, you can see here that the ineligible debris is very minimal. It's about 1,500 cubic yards, and it's been organized into one corner or to the south corner of the site. If you scroll next. And then here, you can see the one pile to the left, to the right, that's going to be removed by the contractor under the United States Army Corps contract. In the middle, that's a pile of MWS that's actively being removed by GovWAM. And to the left of the image, you will see a smaller pile of C&D that our contractor is separating. Like Mr. Esteves said earlier, what we've encountered in this specific pile of debris is that within the pile, as we start, removing and clearing it, there is a significant amount of unexpected ineligible material in the form of tanks, gas tanks. And so if a tank has a valve on it, we can't really accept it because then it will be returned, or the whole load will be returned from Global or Leon. So right now, that's also adding to the timeline. We were expecting a November 10 to 16 end date, but between the time that we had to spend preparing for Bolavin and then the time that we have to invest in reseparating this pile, that's impacting our schedule a little bit. So if you scroll next, there might be another image. No, that was it. So
could you restate your time frame now?
So right now it's between November 16, December 1, but we're really working to get it done by November 16th to the 20th. We're hoping that we do finish on time.
That is awesome.
Yep.
I just think that is really exciting for all of us. I speak on behalf of everyone to say that is a beautiful sight to see. And I think in our discussions earlier, you told me we can look forward to Tizen looking like that soon.
Yes. So once we start completing the villages right away cleanup, then we are going to focus on TGen. And the contractor, as you see, they're very diligent about organizing the sites. TGen right now has a similar appearance. It's just the amount of material there is significant. So hopefully, once we finish GGO and Haget, we can start putting more manpower into TGen.
All right. So I guess, thank you again, Mr. Torres, but Mr. Esteves, can you clarify? So if Army Corps is finished between November 16 and December 1, and there's still that small pile that's for the government of Guam, what is your timeline for that?
Yeah, so I would have to defer the answer to DPW only because their assets, they're really working in tandem with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer. And so assets may be diverted to doing village cleanups and passes and not so much concentrate at one point. So I would say the timeline for the most part is in sync with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer to actually close out a site. But I don't have the exact timeline, Madam Speaker.
Okay, so it's possible to get it done within the same time frame,
It's
is what
very
you're saying.
possible, yeah.
All right, okay. All right, well, thank you very much. Colleagues, I'd like to hold all our questions to the end, but for this panel, because the Army Corps person's here, I'd like to dismiss him if we can. And if so, if you have any questions for Mr. Esteves or the Army Corps? Any questions? Senator Barnett?
I'd like to thank you for attending the hearing. It's very rare that we get to hear from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Not that you're chopped liver, Mr. Charles. But I did have a couple of questions. So can you again state what was your experience relative to little fire ants at that site?
So typically what we do is we test each vegetation pile for fire ants, and this one didn't test positive. So that was transferred to Manhita Farms. They were, they shred it and it becomes mulch.
So in previous testimony, the Director of Land Management had stated that there was an area adjacent to the dump site that was the most heavily infested area for the fire ants. And he had reported a figure which he was quoted as saying is kind of astounding, 20 billion. Queen of fire ants, 20 billion, they say are in the area. 30, they tell me it's 30 billion. Did you see 30 billion fire ants up there?
So to the best of my knowledge, the only PAL that has tested positive for fire ants was a PAL in Manilao. And that was a bit, Manilao?
Manilao?
Yeah.
Manilao.
Manilao, sorry. Yeah. So that has, to the best of my knowledge, been the only PAL. Of course, I arrived here as mission manager on the 15th, and I didn't get any feedback on fire ants on the vegetation pile that was there when I arrived. So it might be a previous pile.
I just also wanted, Madam Chair, the former director of the Land Trust had also testified on the record that a certain area where the fire ants and rhino beetles were found, but in the meetings of the Department of Agriculture, it was said these invasive species know no boundaries. So I would just take that to mean that had there been an infestation at this level, that it would have probably spread over to the adjacent dump site? And you're saying it didn't?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I have not received that feedback.
The former director of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission also testified that there was no thought as to the environmental impact of dumping on our property. We now have an ecological and environmental catastrophe. Would you say that the site up at Epal Point is an environmental and ecological catastrophe?
So to the best of my knowledge, I can say that we are taking care of at least the white goods that are dirty. We, take out the freon, and that has been given a special identifier number by Guam EPA, and that will be taken off island to be recycled. Over.
And based on your testimony, the slides you showed us, the lion's share of the remaining debris that has to be removed is the responsibility of the Guam Environmental Protection Agency and the government of Guam in general?
So about 1,500 cubic yards of material will still remain there, and that'll be a responsibility of Guam EPA.
How many,
and
could you give us an idea, how many pickup loads is that?
so of a truck.
I mean, is it anything like we see at Tizen? So it's little? Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, senators? Senator Kanata?
Mr. Torres, I just wanted to say, Dunklin Asidos Masi, on behalf of myself and the entire body and the entire people of Guam, for all you guys' tireless efforts in sanitizing our debris site and entire island. It's been a tireless effort, and I know you guys have been working very hard, day after day, night after night, and a lot of sweat and blood out there, I'm sure. And it's very much appreciated. We thank you guys for your service again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you again, Mr. Torres. Thank you again, Mr. Esteves Sidusmasi. Thank you. Very exciting news. Maybe we could follow that up with Guam EPA. Guam EPA. I guess just to clarify, if you concur and if there is any, if you're going to have any impediment in removing the remaining debris that's there, or working with, as Mr. Esteves said, DPW and the other agencies of government of Guam. Director.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, Senators. So we do have...
Sorry, just state your name
sorry.
and
Michelle
maybe...
Lastimosa, Administrator for Guam EPA.
Thank you.
So we do have a preliminary amount of ineligible debris up at that EPAL point. So about 1,200 cubic yards of ineligible debris, which is about 84 dump truck loads of solid waste that's going to have to be disposed of.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Can you repeat that, please? Sorry.
So there's about 1,200 cubic yards of ineligible debris that will be left for the government of Guam to dispose of. In previous discussions with the debris debris task force that was formed, I don't know if DPW is going to procure services or transfer that material using their own resources to Luzon.
You're not part of that plan?
We are part of the plan. I mean, we oversee it,
Okay.
but we aren't responsible for
All right.
disposition and disposal of that ineligible waste per se.
Okay. I guess, Mr. Esteves, if we can call you back to clarify this. Yes. How do we get to zero on that debris?
Yeah, so the Department of Public Works, as Ms. Lastimosa stated, will either use equipment that they have, and whatever equipment they don't have, then they'll just have to go through the procurement process of getting additional heavy equipment. So delays, current procurement delays, may extend their ability to move, 200 some loads of ineligible debris to the waste sites.
Have they been doing that?
They have been, yes, throughout the island and throughout the different villages. As I stated earlier, really it's between Department of Public Works in tandem with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on where the heavy equipment is most needed to ensure that we don't have these illegal dump sites that pop up or reappear after a site's already been cleared.
Yes, I know that's everyone's concern, that we don't want that to be restored. But, okay, so you're saying 1,200 cubic yards, about 200 loads. DPW is aware. They know that they're supposed to work in tandem with Army Corps. We're hoping this will all be done when Army Corps is done, which is November to December 1st, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Does EPA see any other issue with the removal of the debris or clearing the site?
I guess it would all depend on the ineligible debris. So right now, Army Corps and their contractors have control over that site. And so until that site is officially closed, through an approved closeout process, then GovGuam can see what material is left behind. We did take pictures. Our staff went out there today to kind of take a preliminary look to see what's still left, and there are canisters, bikes, construction and demolition debris that doesn't fall under FEMA's definition. But there's still about 1,200 cubic yards.
And what is the plan for those in all the sites? What is your approved plan for removal of those ineligible debris?
Right, so from again, like Mr. Aceves mentioned, there is the plan that either DPW and their staff will truck that material out with their equipment, or they will have to procure services to haul that material out to a disposal site, whether it be a recycling facility or Luzon.
All right, so there's nothing to impede DPW from doing that, except DPW's availability of its personnel and its equipment.
Right, I think
Okay.
that's
right.
been the problem, is
Yeah.
that there's a lack of resource,
Okay. And
rental
Guam
equipment.
EPA, I just want to make sure you agree and they're good to go. Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Guam EPA? Senators? Senator Lujan?
Are we shipping any of these waste off island, or, I mean, you're just saying they're either going to a recyclable entity or Lejeune? Are any of them going to be shipped off island?
So all of the eligible items that are recycled under the different facilities, the tires go off island, I believe to India right now, and all the metals are going to Asia. The recycling white goods are going to Asia. So everything else that's not recyclable will be disposed of at the Luzon landfill.
Okay. You're talking about, of course, the ability of Public Works to remove all this based on their access to equipment and all that. What role does solid waste have in this? Because that was removed from DPW, and so what role does solid waste have in this whole, I mean, because we don't hear anything about them removing any of these.
I'm sorry, I'm Roland Gutierrez. I'm the Air and Land Programs Administrator for Guam EPA.
Uh-huh.
And so, I'm sorry, what's the question? I'm sorry, what was the question again, sir?
Question, what role does solid waste have in this whole thing?
So currently, the way the disaster debris plan is written, DPW is responsible for the disposal of the waste. The only thing that GSWA has is to accept the waste that's brought to them. When they separated the two entities and they formed the Guam Solid Waste Authority, it did not transfer with them the role of disaster debris collection to GSWA. So it still remains with DPW.
Okay, so again, at this point, we're trying to find out whether DPW has the capability of doing it or procuring it to an outside entity, right?
So basically what they would do is they would use the available resources, and whatever resources they can, they would contract out, but it would still be directed by DPW, the actual removal. And then the plan for the disposition of the waste, we would approve where it's going.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, it's something that we may have to tweak in regards to law, in regards to the duties of solid waste.
Right. So in the new plan that was written, we need to stand up, and after all of the debris is cleaned up, we need to work with Homeland, and we're supposed to put contracts in place, prior to this, so that it's all set, so that it's done, not contract after the storm. So that's something that Guam EPA, DPW, and Guam Homeland will be working on together to update and get contracts in place as required by the plan that FEMA approved right after Mawar.
Okay, because, again, with DPW, I mean, I don't think they have the manpower, and the resources.
Right.
Again.
So the contracts,
Yeah.
that's very important prior to the storm, so that they can be actuated and put in place after the storm, rather than trying to contract with them after the storm. It should be done before, as per the plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. Any other questions for Guam EPA or Office of Civil Defense? Senator Augustine.
When you mentioned the cell, do you know what the shelf life for the current cells up there at Luzon?
Wait, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
You mentioned that whatever debris is removed, it's going to be coordinated by DPW through Guam Solid Waste, send it to the cells, right, up at Luzon?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the shelf life is for the zone?
I'm sorry?
Do you know the shelf life? When is it due where we're going to need to build another cell? And who's going to foot the bill? I'm just trying to understand. Everything is talking about how we're going to move things, what we need to move, and I'm just curious about who's going to pay for what.
So the government of Guam will be paying for all ineligible items that are not taken by FEMA, and it'll be the responsibility of the government of Guam, and they will actually pay GSWA to receive those, we'll say, refuse.
Okay, and on the sites that they clear, are you guys going to give the green light that the sites are in fact clear of any contamination?
I have to ask Mr. Nicholas, our solid waste program manager. He's currently most update in regards to the life of the cell and the current construction of the new cell.
Okay, well, as you're getting that answer, can you tell me, is Guam EPA going to clear, when they clear Oka Point, when all the debris is gone, is Guam EPA going to say that everything is good to go? No contamination, no nothing. That's what I need to know, because you can say you're overseeing it. That doesn't mean it's clear.
So prior to the storm, and maybe about 5 years back, there was a phase 1 environmental assessment that was done at EPAL. And then the phase 2 was actually scheduled, and then Typhoon Mawar hit. So we do have, a mechanism or a procedure using our brownfields money, our 128A grant money, to conduct an environmental site assessment phase 2, which can include soil analysis, and any other analytical tests that could determine whether or not contamination exists on that property. So we could leverage our grant funding to establish whether or not any contamination exists when the cleanup is done.
Okay, I can understand that, what you did before the typhoon, but as a result of the typhoon, everything that's up there has double, triple, or whatever number of times it grew. I don't think at the time you did your grant, you were measuring that load. And after all the work that's going on up there, Oak Point, I'm just curious is that we want to make sure that when they say it's clear, contaminant-free, it's cleared. Not later on to hear that, well, we only had a grant for this. I just want to make sure, bases are covered. That's all I'm asking.
Right.
So make sure it's covered.
So this grant money and the analysis that would be conducted on the property would then give us a clearer picture of what we need to do to label it clear and clean. So let's say we find contamination up there, depending on the extent of the contamination, how far and widespread the contamination is, will determine how much it'll cost to, to remove or clean up the.
Yeah, okay.
So, that would be the first step, is that.
Yeah, I was just curious about that, because as everybody wants to think that it's going to be clean tomorrow, it's not. It's all going to be clean November 1st. No, it's not. You still need to go back there and take a look at, okay, we got rid of it all. Did DPW clear it all? Probably not. Where we at? What's the timetable? Sure, the goal has always been to match with FEMA. Fine. Army Corps, fine. It's like a matchbook. Not every matchstick is the same. Okay? And then going back to the issue of the cell, maybe, Primo?
Glenn Nicholas, Guam EPA Solid Waste Program Manager. Just to add to Michelle's comment on the cleanup site, we'll give you an example of the previous typhoons, specifically the Robbie Weber Field and the Northern Sports Complex. Those sites are 10-acre, 20-acre altogether. That was used in previous super typhoons with debris that was left after Army Corps had cleaned up everything in FEMA. There was a lot of unauthorized debris that was left on site. Partnering up with, I think it was GURA, we came up with a grant. We have the Brownfields grant that we leverage to do assessments for the site, and Guam EPA actually utilized $200,000 for site assessment and cleanup, and the removal of the hundreds and thousands of tires that were there on the site as a result of that storm or typhoon. So that's an example of something that we can apply at the Oka site, and I think that's already underway as we speak. So in terms of contamination, we hope that we did the separation as best as we can to alleviate all that, hazardous contamination that we're all concerned with. But I think that the contamination that is on the site has already been identified, and based on the areas that were used to store a lot of these waste streams, that we can narrow it down to certain sites for additional sampling if need be.
And to add to that, on all the sites that we collected household hazardous waste or any type of oil or everything, we placed them on the hardened areas of the site, and so they were all under basically asphalt or concrete, and any spills were cleaned up with spill kits. So we don't think there's going to be any type of major contamination on the site from the debris collection.
That's great to know. Yeah. I mean, that's, wow, surprised me. Going back now to the cell, Alazon, was anybody going to give me the shelf life? I mean, how much shelf they got left? And the reason why is because if Guam Solid Waste comes back to us and says, hey, I need $10 million to build another cell, I'm just curious about how much money GovGuam is going to get from all the federal assistance that we can figure out how to fund that program. Because you're going to tell DPW, hey, that's GovGuam's problem. Get rid of it. Move it out. I'm just curious. Do you know how much space is left? If not, just say you don't know and we'll wait for solid waste.
No, I don't know how much space is left because on the closure part of it, there's like cell 2 still kind of open. There's a design where as it's closing and the opening of cell 3, it just opened up like 2 years ago. So, and then during that time period, it was COVID, so that kind of slowed a lot of the waste streams down because of development. Unfortunately, again, it's this typhoon that generated a whole lot of waste that was not anticipated. But, for what it's worth, this typhoon the waste that was generated during the storm was going to be waste generated anyway. So it was just sooner than later. And you're right, we have to be concerned with the cells, but we're hoping that because we also had just recently approved a couple of months ago the Integrated Solid Waste Master Management Plan and the Guam Zero Waste Master Plan, we're diverting a lot of waste streams from that site, so it kind of like evens out in the wash. But we just need to be more aggressive in recycling and removing recyclables, compostables from the Luzon landfill to extend the use of that landfill.
Understood. And you're right. No matter what, the waste that was generated through the typhoon, but really when you think about it, and I know the people of Guam noticed that after the typhoon, really, where did all this trash come from? Did it really break the house? No, it didn't. There's a bunch of trash that you should have taken out a long time, but they had a site to dump it. Then it became a problem. That's what I worry about. We can talk about, it's going to end up there, but not everything comes out until there's an opportunity. You drive around now in Guam, what site was cleared in what minutes? All of a sudden, somebody else dumped, and you guys are probably like, we just cleared this. That's what I'm concerned about. And it's going to happen with Tamuning and wherever. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. I'm sure we can dive deeper into solid waste, but on EPAL point, very glad to hear there was a plan in place and we're going by plan. Right, thank you. Senator Barnett.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Esteves, you mentioned procurement delays. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, so there's just been going through the fiscal year, first of all, the reconciliation of accounts and reestablishment of accounts and the different contracts. Of course, that always causes a delay as, the emergency doesn't necessarily follow our, fiscal laws. And so that's just one small delay. And then, just the acting chief procurement officers, working with them.
Yeah, I don't even know if this body is aware of who the acting chief procurement officer even is. It was my understanding that Claudia Akfaji, the former chief procurement officer, she's no longer?
Right now, we're working with Linda Banas from Deputy Director of DPW as the Acting Chief Procurement Officer.
So is her, is she on island? Is her absence or wearing those two hats of delaying procurement any more?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, we had a meeting with her before she left, and we have requisitions in the system, and so just making sure that the procurement record is complete, ready for her signature, or to delegate her delegation of authority.
Would you say that the procurement has been any more difficult in post-Mawar compared to other storms?
I think procurement has always been the same for as long as I've been here.
Thank you, Charles. I just wanted to ask the ineligible debris. How does it get into the dump site? Is that just oversight of the people who are manning the entry, or is it just incidental? Is that a normal kind of thing? We're talking about, I did the math, 1.5 tons, right?
So basically, ineligible debris, our definition of what C&D is versus the eligible definition of what C&D is are two different things.
I'm sorry, could you just explain what C&D means for
construction and demolition debris?
Okay.
So that's the main thing that's up there right now. So FEMA, so they'll bring us a toilet, and that's considered C&D as part of the waste stream that we regulate here. But they'll turn around and say, no, that's not part of C&D, because where did the toilet come from? But to my understanding, and from the understanding from the storm when we spoke, I mean, buildings go down, so a toilet gets broken in the building. But a lot of it you see that was coming in, you could see they were sitting out there. They're just bringing in. And basically we were told not to turn them away if it is an actual waste stream that we have there. And a lot of times too, like I said, we had my whole staff, which is like less than 20 staff, plus we had 25, I believe, individuals from AmeriCorps, and we were spread real thin. And so when there's 6 people dumping and there's one guy standing there, sometimes they're throwing things in that are not supposed to be thrown in, and they'll throw something on top of it. By the time we come back, we can't see it. But according to, we pretty much, I believe, better than 90% separation rate, and I believe that's a minimum amount of waste, 1,500 cubic yards of what they actually took out of there. That's a minuscule portion. And if you can ask them what the total volume that was taken out of EPAL that was eligible, I could say probably that's maybe less than 5%. I would say 3% at the most. 1,500 cubic yards is nothing.
Thank you for that. Are you able to so you were instructed to not turn anyone away? Who gave
well,
those instructions?
we were accepting eligible items depending on what it was. We were told to take garbage from day one, and so we were taking garbage and separating it. And then we were told to take C and D. And obviously, there's a list that we can take from. I mean, we literally printed the list from FEMA for our staff. But when they come in and they're screaming and they have a toilet or a bathtub and it's C and D, we're like, okay, I guess we're gonna take it. So, and even the tires at one point we were taking, gas cylinders, and these things we know they're not eligible, but we were instructed to take it so that we can clean the island. And I mean, at the time the people were all, no power, no nothing. They're just, I guess, trying to go and throw some trash.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Nothing further, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So again, maybe we could hear Army Corps just tell us how much debris did you remove and in what time period? Because we've got 1,500 cubic yards left.
Yeah, so at the time that I came here, we had about 25,000 cubic yards left, and
Sorry, say it again.
25,000 cubic yards
Okay.
left, and ineligible debris is only 1,500. So I would agree it's minimal. And obviously, before I was here, there was a significant amount of cubic yardage. I would say almost double of that.
Double?
Yeah,
that was removed. So what's the
about 50,000
time period?
maybe.
Do you
Since
think
July.
it's reasonable to expect Guam to remove 1,500 cubic yards that are remaining at EPAL Point in the next month by December 1?
I would say if the resources are there and not limiting, it should be. But something that, as the Army Corps, we're experiencing is the lack of resources available to move the debris out. So again, it's
Right,
very resource
you guys removed 25,000 cubic yards since May, which will be June, July, August, September, 4 months.
4 months, yes.
Done. All right, thank you. Thank you again for all your work, all of you. Situos Masi.
Thank you.
All right, we're looking again at further impediments that were listed and seeing what is the status of those. I'd like to invite and recognize Tamuning Mayor and the Vice Mayor. If you'd like to join us, you can have a seat if you have testimony, and if not, any time that you'd like to join in, you're welcome. All right, and so I'd like to confirm, so we did receive a letter from GWA, so for my colleagues, this is available to you. A very quick summary is really a list of the CIP projects that they have done to benefit the Guam Memorial Hospital up at its current location. 22.8 million Central Guam reservoirs, 10.6 million Route 4 relief, sewer line rehab and replacement, approximately 800 linear feet of sewer on Route 1, 5.2 in progress, 25.2 million. That was, completed 33.4 million total. In progress, 25.2 million, 5.2 million pressure zone realignment phase 1, 20 million Hagåtña main sewage pump station and force main. Construction pending is 142.5 million, 14.5 million pressure zone realignment phase 2, 36 million Central Guam reservoirs, 3 million Central Guam reservoirs, 69 million sewer pump station rehabilitation program, 20 million Hagåtña wastewater treatment plant planning and design phase. Preliminary planning estimated 36 million for an estimated 25 million Tumon number 2 reservoir, estimated 11 million water main rehabilitation replacement. These are what they believe benefits Oka Point, according to their testimony. The EPA was already, and Department of Ag is not here, but we've heard the testimony regarding the fire ants. Okay, so we do have other agencies and other non-governmental officials signed up to testify, so I'd like to welcome them. We have the Department of Land Management. Would you like to add? I do have a couple questions. Department of Land Management, if you'd like to testify, and I know this Chamorro Land Trust, please, and the Guam Memorial Hospital also wanted to testify, and then we have, well, maybe I'll conclude with the government agencies, and then we've got several, so let me just make sure I recognize you all. It is Guam. Are you both from GMH? Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, Chamorro Land Trust, I know this is your property and you were concerned about the revenue, of course. We are have to take that into consideration, but we also want to make sure, and you were concerned, or sorry, the former director was concerned about the debris as well. So I think it's very good news to hear about the debris cleanup, the progress. Would you like to add to that, Mr. Burge?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And Senators Kanata, Senators Duenas, Senator Fisher, Senator Lujan, and Senator Barnett. I am John Burge. I'm the Acting Administrative Director of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. And today marks my first day overseeing the CLTC. And I want to extend my apologies in advance if I'm unable to address all your inquiries. However, I assure you that we'll make every effort to follow up on your questions promptly and provide you with the necessary information. Yes, Madam Speaker, I am happy to hear the results of the cleanup from the various agencies before me. But I would also like to emphasize the significance of recognizing that the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, our sole public hospital, is no longer suitable for long-term use and is in dire need of extensive repairs. According to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the cost of repairing the current facility would far exceed the expenses associated with constructing a new hospital at a different location. In light of this assessment, the proposal for a new medical complex encompassing a hospital, healthcare agency facilities, and veterans care is a commendable initiative aimed at providing modernized healthcare services and strengthening Guam's public health system. The Department of Land Management and Governor Leon Guerrero, have undertaken significant efforts to identify suitable land for the new medical complex. Throughout this process, factors such as size, location, proximity to utilities, development constraints, population density, traffic conditions, and arterial road accesses were meticulously considered. Public Law 3656, that's the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center Act of 2021, was introduced by all 15 senators of the 36 Guam legislature. This law acknowledges the urgent need for new facilities for the Guam Memorial Hospital, the Department of Public Health and Social Services, and the Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. And according to Public Law 3656, these healthcare facilities have been in use for over 5 decades and are exhibiting signs of structural failure due to their age. Additionally, their structures do not comply with modern building codes, posing a liability to the staff, patients, and visitors. From what I read, the intent of the Guam legislature as outlined in Public Law 3656 was to provide the people of Guam with state-of-the-art healthcare facilities that would house all healthcare agencies within the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center. The healthcare center would position Guam as the regional healthcare hub of Micronesia, fostering opportunities for medical training, tourism, and enhanced medical professional services throughout the entire region. Aside from the pandemic, which further underscored the need for improved healthcare facilities, there are no apparent reasons to deviate from the initial intent of the 36 Guam legislature. The property under discussion today, Ipao Point, also known as the Old Hospital Point, falls under the jurisdiction of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Furthermore, Public Law 25179 granted the CLTC the authority to lease the property for commercial development, and the generated revenue earmarked for infrastructure programs. Former CLTC Administrative Director Alice Tyrone expressed opposition to relinquishing the land from the Commission. The CLTC's objective is to lease the land for commercial purposes to generate revenue for infrastructure construction at our various residential and agricultural properties. Moreover, the property in question is, to my knowledge, insufficient in size to accommodate the medical center proposed by the 36 Guam legislature. Out of the original 53 acres, 9 acres have been reserved for the Katuran Chamorro Cultural Center, 5 acres or more for the Naftan Mananata, which is for the reinterment of ancestral remains, 1 acre for the Healing Heart Center, and a portion has been designated for a proposed foster home for children, with only approximately an estimated 25 to 27 usable acres remaining. And to what I understand, we would need to allocate several of these acres for easements, stormwater runoff, and seismic setbacks. So I thank you for your valuable time and consideration, and I urge you to support the governor's proposed acquisition of a property that is adequately sized to accommodate the Guam 21st Century Health Center. I feel this step will enable improved healthcare services and establish a stronger health system in Guam. Undunkluna Sususmasi.
Suzuos Masi, Director Birch. Are you also the Director,
Yes.
Director for Guam Ancestral Lands
I
Commission?
have dual
Continue.
duties, collateral duties over the CLTC.
Okay, thank you. Director Borja, and if I could invite the representative from the Department of Ag to come and sit with us. Director Borja, please proceed.
My report, Madam Chair, is the same as it was in May, except for the events that happened, of course, which is a typhoon, and the addition of that particular kind of debris, the particular kind of waste. There is still 12 buildings in there that contain lead-based paint and contain asbestos tiles, to include the second Turan Chamorro buildings in that area. But other than that, my report remains the same, including the fire ants report that we got from the biosecurity section of the Department of Agriculture. And I do thank Senator Barnett for his interrogation of the Army Corps representative, establishing liabilities should little fire ants and or rhino beetles be transferred to the Manhita farms up in Chigo. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Director Borja. Mr. Kando, are you, yeah, please state your position for the record.
Yes, good evening, Speaker Jalahi and senators of the 37th Guam Legislature. My name is William Kando. I'm the Assistant Administrator of Operations. To my right is Jeffrey Ventura, who is our Deputy Assistant Administrator of Operations. And to his right is Zaldi Tugati, the Guam Hospital Authority's Facilities Maintenance Manager, who is also a professional engineer, civil by trade. Thank you for this opportunity to have, and we apologize, Lillian Posadas, our hospital administrator, is on a leave of absence this week, so she wasn't able to join us. Thank you for this opportunity to have this discussion on one of the proposed sites for the new hospital, specifically Ipao Point. Inasmuch as we agree with and support the fundamental intent and purpose of building a new hospital for the people of Guam, we do not support it being built at Ipao Point, as this proposed site has various concerns. One of those is spatial footprint concerns. The proposed Ipao Point site is, we believe it's approximately 17 acres of useful land that could be used to build the new hospital. And the existing GMH is currently located on lots totaling a similar amount of acreage, which is about 16 acres, which is well short of the amount of space required to build a modern hospital with a full array of services, capabilities, and capacities that we envision and are planning for in order to meet Guam's healthcare needs. We believe, as part of the concerns of the spatial footprint, it will not provide adequate sized parking structure that is required to protect the staff vehicles during tropical cyclones and keep them safe, the vehicles safe, them safe and secure, as well as the safety and security of patients, families, volunteers, and staff to come and go. GMH currently provides approximately 500 parking stalls, and we project our need to be approximately 1,000 parking stalls within a parking structure for the new hospital to accommodate patients and their families, volunteers and visitors, various types of students, UOG, GCC, high school students, contractors, and others that are coming and going to the existing hospital. They would still be coming and going to a new hospital as well. We believe there's not enough space for a new hospital, there's not enough space for a new hospital at that Ipao Point. So clearly that would not be enough space to create a one-stop shop medical campus that benefits from shared wide array of health and medical services, supplies, equipment, capacities, and capabilities. Relative to geology concerns, every day the GMH on its cliff line, we are impacted negatively by the weather effects to GMH's infrastructure. That includes plant, property, and equipment. So this new hospital on Ipao Point, again, is going to be exposed to inclement weather just every day, not to mention during inclement weather of tropical cyclones, which is extreme weather. You've seen the evaluation of potential surface faulting. That this report was focused on GMH. It mentions a fault line that is running through Ipao Point, but that fault line was only mentioned in that report the impact on the existing GMH. That geological report had nothing to do with Ipao Point. So if you're going to have to, now you're going to have to study the geology of the existing Ipao Point. It would have to be done all over again to see if Ipao Point is even suitable geologically to build a new hospital. And I have no idea when that would be done or how long that would take. So applicability of that report is only to the existing GMH site. And then suitability, there is a question of suitability for building some, we kind of envision building a new hospital that could potentially take advantage of building some of its functions and aspects below ground. We do not believe that you would even have that ability at EPAL Point, because you have caves running underneath EPAL Point. We have no idea how deep those caves run under EPAL Point, so the possibility of building below ground, we do not believe exists. Whereas the other land that's being targeted in Manilao, we believe we would have that opportunity. Some of those aspects would include parking, plumbing, drainage, power lines, water lines, telecommunications lines, housekeeping and laundry, warehouse, facilities maintenance, auditorium, incident command center. These could all potentially be built slightly below ground. So we do not believe that you would have that opportunity at EPAL Point. But again, I guess the geological study, a new geological study, would, I guess, determine that. Thank you. That is my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Cando. Do you have that in writing or not?
I do, ma'am.
Okay. I'd appreciate if I could pass that out to my colleagues. Thank you. Anyone else from GMH wanted to testify? Please turn on the microphone and identify yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam. Good afternoon, Senators. I'm Saldi Tugade. I'm a civil engineer by profession, licensed and registered here in Guam. I've been with the GMH for, I guess, comparably for the longest time with William Cando here, almost more than 25 years. So in my experience, that if we're looking at EPAL Point compared to where we're at now at Oka, it's nothing different. It's in the same geological area that we're looking at. So we are in the cliffline area.
Sorry, can you just pull the microphone a little closer? And what kind of area? We're in what area?
What I'm trying to say, sir, Madam, is that the geography of EPAL Point for the EPAL Point and the Oka Point is just very much the same. So the way I look at it, it's going to have the same environmental conditions that it has to withstand. My problem with the facilities is that because it's too close to the cliff line, your wind is much more expressed and stronger compared to other areas of the island. So as you travel, because there's no barriers coming in, wind incoming from the ocean or the water, there's no impediment that would soften its impact to the facility. So if we're building there, it's going to be the same conditions that we need to withstand. Most of these environmental concerns has been pointed out by subject matter experts, the agencies, like all these invasive species and all that, all these things about environmental, that's been taken care of. They already expressed that. The area, if we know, is subject to salt spray 365 days. So for us to build there, the way I see it, in the engineering point of view, we need to follow the military grade specs. So that means more money. So I don't know how the economics is with that, comparatively building it in some other areas, because we haven't done so. But I would say, with the help of the legislature, that would be understandably taken into consideration. So everything else has been explained by my boss here, so that's all I could say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And appreciate your work there and your experience and your testimony. Department of Agriculture, please state your name and position for the record.
Sure, my name is Chris Rosario. I'm the state entomologist of the Guam Department of Agriculture Biosecurity Division. And I don't even know where to start with the site. So just start with the history. Okay, so back in 2014, I believe there was the Oka, or the EPOW point was treated or was surveyed for little fire ants, and I believe since that time, that site was used as a green waste disposal site. Soon after Typhoon Dolphin, which is 2015, it was then used as a designated site as well for green waste. But over the years, that's really what it was mainly used for. And since then, little fire ant has been introduced. So the first time Guam Department of Ag came out to survey, and by the way, these surveys were conducted by the University of Guam at the time. So in 2021, Department of Ag was called to do a survey, to resurvey that area, and we found that not only it was used as a green waste dump site, but also for other debris as well, household trash, and so that likely, to me, in my opinion, that likely even might have spread little fire ant even more. So with the green waste debris still sitting at that site for many years, I'm sure already that has likely to spread in the adjacent properties. So we're looking at probably the whole site as largely infested with little fire ants. Again, I'm not here to oppose or support. I'm just giving my professional opinion. For treatment, it will take up to a year, maybe even close to 2 years, depending on. So, fire ants, they live in the vegetation. They are arboreal, so they live up in the trees. You get rid of those trees, depending on construction, whatever it may be. You get rid of the habitat, well, you essentially would get rid of the ants as well, along with treatment. So two ways to get rid of fire ants in a site is sanitation and treatment. And considering if it's going to be, what's it called? It's going to be cleared out, if that forested area is going to be cleared out, then you could relatively get rid of the fire ants within 2 years. But we're still talking about a long-term treatment, a long-term monitoring period for little fire ants in the adjacent properties. And that's where in my professional opinion, it would essentially have to be a long-term monitoring project for controlling little fire ants. It's doable, but it does take a long period of time for that. So, yeah. And any other questions, feel free to ask. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, we had talked about fire ants earlier, so just I don't want to catch you off guard. I don't know if you heard that. Did you?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Did you hear what we discussed earlier about fire ants with the Army Corps?
Not necessarily, but I have been part of the monitoring for the Army Corps of Engineers. I believe they also work with the ECC, who has done the mulching. Now, mind you, the raw green waste material that's been brought there did have little fire ants. So I've tested the raw green waste material, and it has been infested. But then after that stuff has been mulched and processed, then it's the pile has. I have not been able to test positive. Or have not seen any tested positive samples. However, the structures, the concrete structures that are around that particular area are infested. So although the ants aren't on those piles anymore, but the structures that are still there, like I think there was near the mulch pile, there is a just a concrete structure. I think it might have been for like one of those one of those storage tanks or like an above-ground storage tank there, and it had a concrete structure that was infested with little fire ants. Other than that, nothing else to say
All
about
right.
the site. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Roberto. And thank you to the Department of Ag. I don't think they were here at our last hearing, so very
I see.
helpful. And, okay, just want to make sure. I think I had sent a query to Department of Ag as to fire ants, and, because we had heard in the last hearing, there were fire ants there, and we wouldn't be able to clean them up for 2 years. It would impede development. Has fire ants or Department of Ag ever stopped a development because of fire ants?
Stopped the development because of fire ants. Nope, not that I know of. No.
All right. And you say, the good news is it's treatable. You said you can, and you know where they are, you can treat them. And you've known about, not you maybe, but Department of Ag has known about this for years. Do they have any plan for this property?
Oh yeah, there was a plan already set in place. The moment that our team went out in 2021 October, the moment we found that there was little fire ants there, I've already had a plan set out for that.
To remove them?
To have it removed, or have it eradicated.
So what happened? Did they do it?
There was nothing.
Do you know
no
why?
Movement from there. Not that I know of.
Okay. All right, yeah. I know this is Chamorro Land Trust property. They have been very concerned about this, and I'm sure they will follow up with you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and then we had Department of Land Management. Thank you again for all your testimony. I just wanted to clarify. So there seems to be a continuing different numbers. We're using your number that you gave us as to acres that are usable. It's about 25 acres. It's less than, that's what the number the governor used in her press release as well, that remain usable. We're not, Matrix estimated 35 acres remained usable, but Guam Memorial Hospital, you came up with a much lower number. You said 16 or 18 acres are still usable. And I just want to, I guess, I'd like to rely on Department of Land Management for that estimate, if that's okay with you, but do you have any reason why we shouldn't rely on his estimate?
The number that I was speaking of regarding the 17 acres, I believe I saw that indicated in the master plan for the development of as far as that particular site at Ipao Point. So and maybe there's different, maybe it's indicating different acreages within that plan. So I did see it in that report, so that's what I stated.
Okay, and you're not talking about the medical complex master plan that was created by Matrix. You're talking about an older master plan?
I'm talking about the Guam Medical Campus Master Plan.
Okay, that's Matrix.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, they estimated 35 acres to be usable.
So if you look in that plan, you're going to see it mention also a 17 acres. So that's, and maybe there's, I would like to, if there's any confusion there, I would entertain that being eliminated.
All
That would
right,
be good.
I'll check it again. All right, thank you. And the GMH also talked about the geology of the site. Yeah, that's been brought to our attention. We received a map from Bureau of Statistics and Plans showing the geology of the area and the fault lines. And it actually, if I'm reading it right, looks like the fault lines, those did not impede any development of Jonestown, Parisville, the existing hospital, or any other development in that area. So I guess, yeah, we will have to consult with the experts on that. And you're saying that there was a study on the current hospital site, the geology. All
Yes.
right. I'm not familiar with that. Maybe if you could send that to me, I'd like to take a look at that too.
Well, that particular study, which was completed by URS Corporation, is on the websites, both the GITA website and also, I believe it's on one other website. But we forwarded that in the
Okay.
for that the development of the master plan. So that we were the ones, GMHA was the ones that contracted
Yeah,
Your
for your
S-Corp
current site.
And so it talks about the fault line running through EPAL
Yes.
Point and the potential impact on our current site.
Right.
But I'm not aware of any geological study that was done
I understand.
specifically for that
I
EPAL
understand.
Point, which I believe really, if
Yes.
Guam is seriously considering building a new hospital there, that should be completed. That should be done.
Right. I would expect that would be done on any site that was chosen, right? That's normally what they do. This plan to build underground, the only reason I want to ask you about it is because I didn't see that in the medical complex plan. They made a design, there's nothing in there about underground. They talked about how many floors it would be. They all seem to be above ground. Is this a new part of the design that you're going to try to incorporate in the new master plan?
That's correct. I mean, Team GMH, we've been doing our own internal design concept work, and so of course we're not at the design phase, but that doesn't mean we can't consider possibilities during doing our own design concept, thought process, and so that's some of the things that we've been stating as possibilities, because you will find those in other hospitals, around the world. They
Sure.
often do put
Sure.
these particular
All right, I just want to
functions
confirm, that's
underground.
not part of the existing plan for Atacao or Eagles Field or EPAL Point, right?
We are considering underground.
It wasn't part of the plan that Matrix put together for the hospital.
That's true, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be entertained when we enter into the design phase.
Okay. All right. And, okay, and I hear your concerns about wind, it's a cliff line, it's salt spray. I know that the intention was that it be built on a cliff line for the view, for the patients. They wanted the patients to have the same experience as the patients experienced at the Naval Hospital at the time. That was built on a cliff line, suffering probably the same risk of wind and salt spray. And so I know those are significant and they should be considered if this is the site that is chosen. I agree. And Chamorro Land Trust, as I said earlier, I think we will need to address Chamorro Land Trust or ancestral lands independently. We have this hearing set for ancestral lands. I think I'm going to set one for Chamorro Land Trust because I do want to address their concerns. But I do want to note again that every property that was considered for the building of the hospital either belonged to Chamorro Land Trust or Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. That's the list that they gave us. Only one property was not belonging to Chamorro Land Trust or ancestral lands. That was conservation area at UOG. That's a cliff line again. Yes. But so we're going to be facing the same issues, it looks like, if we stick with one of their recommendations. It's Chamorro Land Trust wants to lease their properties out for cash if they're commercial properties, or they're supposed to use them for residential, right?
Right.
And so over the years, the legislature decided they were going to authorize them for commercial lease of that property instead of residential. And same thing with ancestral lands. They want, they're supposed to use their property for cash income to benefit those beneficiaries of the land bank. Yes. And so I don't know, I find them very similar issues that we are facing. And are we going to achieve some cash for ancestral lands for that property, or for Chamorro Land Trust on this property? Those are very significant issues to address. I agree. Thank you.
Thank
All right, Senator Lujan, any questions or comments for the panel?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, panel. It was said there was concern, of course, of the fault line and ocean spray and things of that nature. I live in Jonestown, and I'm just wondering how those 4 towers were able then to be given the right to build. You have 2 towers that are 16 floors. You have 2 towers that are 19 floors. I'm sure the builders and the engineers considered this sprays. Oka Towers is there, the Riga Hotel is there. And if any tourist destination you go to that's built by the beach, the builders, the hotel owners will be very concerned about ocean sprays. You're built around the ocean. So at this point, I want to just, JFK, it's ocean sprays, and we spend millions of dollars to build that place. So again, homes are going up in Jonestown, and there's no concern about the fault line. Again, there's those 4 towers that are right next to the hospital. As a matter of fact, a lot of the hospital employees use the frontage of that condominium there to park their cars. I don't think anyone is afraid that their cars may fall into a fault line there. I've lived there for 60 plus years. And so, again, all the hotels will be on the fault line. Those 4 towers that are on the fault line. How many floors do you anticipate the hospital to be? If it was built on the current, or on the, say, EPAL site, or the old hospital site, how many floors?
Could be 3, could be 4. We don't know yet because we haven't entered into the design phase.
Okay, so maximum 4 floors.
But relative to a fault line, we don't know the seismic, the geology of EPAL Point.
Okay.
There's no study that is focused on that.
What I'm basically saying, so those 4 towers,
we do know that a fault line is running through EPAL Point.
Those 4 towers should not have been built then over there.
I don't believe that you can compare a condominium to a hospital, in which we are trying to 24/7 providing healthcare services, life-saving services.
Mr. Kando and Senator, please, one at a time. Senator, you have the floor, and until you yield.
I'm comparing buildings. The codes to build will be basically the same. There are 19 floors, there's 16 floors, 4 floors. So if 4 floors will be probably in jeopardy of a fault line, that means a 16 and a 19th floor building that is relatively right there in the fault line as well will be in even bigger jeopardy.
Senator Lujan, if I may say?
Sure.
If I may respond? The building codes, the hospital-specific building codes are not the same as just a regular building. The electrical codes are not the same between a hospital.
The 19th and 16th floor buildings that we have up there, they're just regular codes then. Just regular codes. Any small contractor couldn't build that.
Specific to a condominium,
I don't think so.
specific
I don't
to
think
a
so.
hospital.
You have to have certain licensing to be able to build certain heights. They're not just a regular. I don't think it's just Joe's contractor that built that condominium.
All I'm saying, Senator, is you're comparing apples to oranges.
No, I'm not. I'm comparing buildings. 4 floors are not right next to each other. We're 19 and 16, and so we're in jeopardy of salt spray with 4 floors, and we're not with 16 and 19. And the building codes are, no, it's just a condominium. Really?
I believe what Mr. Tagadi...
You think the military would allow their folks to stay? Because most of those people living in those condominiums are military folks. You think if there was just, those codes wasn't really adhered to? It's just like a home, like a two-story home?
I'm sure they followed their codes. It wouldn't be the same. They're not going to be the same codes that we're going to follow.
We have very
They're going to be
strict
different.
codes. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't buy the salt spray. Yes, it is, but everywhere. Where if you build a Miguel or Barragán, you got salt spray there as well. So, everywhere.
I believe what the master plan was looking for was the most optimal site to build a modern hospital. That's why we were looking at different sites. And so that's why we went through advantages, disadvantages. What is the best site that we're going to build a new hospital for the people of Guam?
Okay, is it a hospital? Okay, because or a medical center inclusive of a hospital?
We still
Everything.
believe that it's best that we build a medical center, a medical campus. We still believe that, so that we can, you know, interact, collaborate together. We should all do it on the same campus. We should be connected via one electronic health record. We transport patients between us and behavioral health all the time, and so including public health, and so close proximity is very important.
Mr. Gato, let me ask you this. If you believe, and say we believe, why is it not that GMH and the medical community are not on the same page? If there's a we believe, why are they not on the same page?
I will let them speak for themselves. I don't represent everyone.
But you're in a facility that have doctors. I mean, if you don't have doctors, I mean, you wouldn't be there. If you don't have doctors, you wouldn't be there. So I'm just saying, we, again, should be on the same page in these buildings. I mean, do you guys not take the doctors' advice in consideration for these things? I mean,
Of course we do. As a matter of fact, when we do any of our designs, we rely on the end users, the clinicians,
and that's why
very closely.
And that's why they have, and that's why they have opposing views on where it's going to be?
Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and I respect that.
All the doctors, I mean, you got all the doctors saying it should still be there.
I don't agree with that. I don't believe it's all of the 100% of the doctors. I know some doctors that do not agree with that.
Why are they not here?
You'd have to ask them. I don't know. We would have to have an oversight hearing on why the doctors didn't show up.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, again, like I said, I've lived in Jonestown, and you know, I've seen these buildings go up, and I'm again, in regards to codes and fault lines and ocean sprays and things of that nature.
We have that, of course, through the GLUC.
All right, you
And
can
also-
provide that.
yeah, and also provide the building and engineering plans for the large lattice stone down in Ipaw, Adelup, and probably the engineering plans for the Royal Palms apartment buildings there. I'm sure that might help the.
All right, thank you.
preliminary review.
Thank you, Director. Senator Kanata? Sorry, Senator Burnett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Oh, man. It'd just be much more productive if we could just discuss the status of Ipaw Point without all of this political context. We got the director of Tremor Land Trust all of a sudden is a healthcare expert advising us on what is best for the healthcare. We got Mr. Cando from the hospital now is a geologist. Lanet, little fire ants, never stop construction. Salty air, never stop construction. And I just think it would just be so much more productive for us to just ask the questions and get the answers about Ipaw Point without all the political interference. That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Fisher?
Thank you. Mr. Kondo, do buildings designed for human residential occupation, do they have different standards than structures and buildings designed for public occupation, such as an airport or a hospital? Or maybe I should address the engineer, I don't know.
Yeah, I would prefer to defer to, maybe Zaldi can speak a little on that issue, because I know he's very familiar with the hospital building codes and standards.
I'm sorry, hospitals have a separate building code? A building code?
We have a separate set of codes